Okay, our next item in the sequence is that we have this keeper which slides down in between and fits over top of the lead screw, kind of keeps it in position there. So we have this kind of rectangular shape. It might be handy to have the origin at that point. We'll go with that. I don't know that there's anything in particular. So a new part, metric, front plane, open up a sketch, and then we'll draw the rectangle. And if I go back into select, then we can go up to our command manager, grab the center line, and I'm going to look for midpoint to midpoint. Going right click and into select, select control select, and we'll make that coincident so that we can add a few dimensions, smart dimension or smart dimension. And that's going to be 2 millimeters off of the base. And then we are 18 millimeters wide and 10 millimeters tall. All right, so more for illustration. Let's see, 3.5 millimeters. So more for illustration. I'm going to go ahead and extrude this out and put in the little notch geometry after, just to kind of illustrate that process. So this would be a good one. I opened up the sketch on the face, and we're going to go right into select. And if I would do a straight slot, one end of the slot will be at the origin, and the other end of the slot will be out in space somewhere. Applying the radial dimension of 3 millimeters, and really all I have to do is bring that end of the slot up, and midpoint or coincidence is going to be fine. And it already has the round, already has the geometry, and so I got to put it in the other sketch, but maybe I want to have a what if scenario if I try different geometries or different ideas as I'm going through this process. It's easy enough to suppress this and then turn it back on if it becomes the final geometry. All right, so cut, extrude, and through all. And then last, we'll pick to the fillet. And one that I did not know is that if the show selection toolbar is turned off, then you don't get the pop-up. So we're going to put in a radius of 2, and then when I select the other corner, this is the pop-up. All right, so the selection toolbar that comes in is saying go ahead and grab everything. That's a little too much. So picking 2 edges versus deselecting 2 edges, yeah, I'm not seeing any great advantage there. We'll just go ahead and select and rotate and select. All right, and then my other fillet, and that was, let's see if I click on it, that puts me into the pop-up toolbar fillet, and then this one becomes 1 millimeter, and we grab this edge and it's also 1 millimeter. So we can go ahead and save that. This is the Vice Keeper. And now we're ready to look at the Vice body. All right, so when we go into this geometry, kind of the same thing as the first handle. If I draw this on the right plane, I could get a lot of the geometry in this one shape. The dovetail, also because of the symmetry, we can build in that geometry. So origin probably bottom and rotated 90 degrees. So let's fly that over here a little ways. We'll open up our metric part. Front plane, sketch. Now if I drew it in that orientation, it wouldn't necessarily hurt anything. It's just that I'm thinking ahead to how I want it to come into when I do the insert component into the assembly, how I want it to go into the assembly. So I jumped into the front plane. And so that's going to kind of, from the pictures and the other thing, not really the orientation that I want. So we're going to stay with that and use it as an example. So the insert line vertical for construction infinite length is going to be applied to the origin, and that's going to be my axis of symmetry. So when I draw half of this part, line, vertical, up, over, little angle back, and to the center. All right, so what that does, and this is going to act like the diametral again. We are 55. So as long as I place this dimension on the opposite side of the center line, I'm going to get the whole dimension. If I were in between the center line and the object, then I would get the radial or the half dimension. All right, so I want to hit escape to get out of that diameter. And then our height is 25. And we have a depth of 6. And they gave us, all right, so 12 to there and 9 to there. Usually dovetail cutters are defined as 60, 45. There's some angle that we're given, oh, maybe not 90. So quick Control Z and drop in the 9. So if I wanted to know what they actually calculated for that dimension, I can, except for the midpoint, escape to get out of that. So 63.43, that makes no sense from a manufacturing standpoint. I really want that to be 60 degrees. So this is my decision to be able to put that in. So if I switch that to a driven dimension, right, just as this was a driven dimension because it came in conflict with those other dimensions, I can switch, and that will make this dimension the driving dimension and allow me to change it to 60 degrees. All right, so a standard dovetail cutter, I would be able to run down through there and create that geometry. All right, so let's go ahead and pick, left click, hold down, drag from right to left. It grabs everything, including all the dimensions, but it's only going to mirror the objects. And what do we have for an overall length is 100. So features, extrude, 100 millimeters. Midplane is left over from the handle, so we'll go ahead and accept that. And there we go. We have then the 10 millimeters off of each end, but nothing really from the side. Let's see if we can move that up a little bit. So we said that that's 12, so we could go 15, maybe 16, somewhere in there. So on the sketch, have the choice to make from sketch from the bottom or from the top. Probably wouldn't want to put it in that pocket, but advantage of the origin being at the center and symmetrical is I can take advantage of the center rectangle. Center rectangle, we have to decide if we want to go from corners or from midpoints. Because of the midpoint relations, if I were to include the fillets in this sketch, the midpoints usually bark about losing that relation where the corners aren't so picky. So if I go from corner to corner, we pick the origin to start. I'm dragging it to a rough location. Because it has the symmetry, I should only have to put the 10 millimeters on one end. And we said that we're going to guess and go 16 millimeters. Extrude cut. And through all is fine, we have our geometry. So if I look at that from the top, might could have gone 15, whichever. All right, so the next one is going to be the whole wizard items to find our M5 by 0.8. by 8 mm depth of holes. So that is typically going to be thread depth, which means the hole depth of the thread is going to be deeper. The outside two, let's go ahead and pull that back in. The outside two threads are going to go into material, but the center, realistically, it's showing it not breaking through. I would say go ahead and break those through as deep a hole as you can reasonably make to achieve the thread depth that you need. That's what we're going to go with. All right, and then on the machining side, if this is a production part and I want that tap to go deeper, there's issues like the chip pack up, the tap breakage, those kinds of things. It just gives me as a manufacturer more options rather than having to hold this to some tight, doesn't really matter tolerance. So we went to the hole wizard. And in the hole wizard, we are going to be in ANSI metric. We are going to go from the simple, which is in gray, to the straight tap. And I just leave it at bottoming tap. I don't usually worry about those geometries. Through all, probably not. So we want to go to a blind in condition of 8 mm. And if I had a 6 mm thread engagement, then that would be a couple extra, and my selection then is, do I go to the shoulder or go to the tip? There's times where I may not want it to break out this backside, that there's pressure or liquid or air pressure on one side that we have to contend with, that I wouldn't want to let it escape. So 10 mm in this one's going to be fine to the shoulder, and it's not going to leave one of those kind of truncated hole locations. All right, so since I pre-selected, I'm automatically on this face. If you see anything that says 3D sketch, jump out into the work area, pick that face, then it will switch over to the points, and then you can start adding hole locations. So wherever I want a hole, I'm going to select, and then I can hit escape to get out of the points. All right, so this one did not go vertical, but we'll place it. And then, so that was a select the origin, control select the point. That one becomes vertical. I want all three of these to be horizontal, so I select, control select, horizontal. And then we can put the dimensions on, what did they give us? 19.5. The 8 mm, well, we're pretty much going to have to pick. As a general rule, I would rather go hole to hole than off of the edge. And then when we place the, oh, looks like I grabbed that one. I didn't want to do that. All right, let's try that again. Double click 19.5. Thought I was still in my smart dimensions, so place 19.5. All right, so since I'm still in blue, I grab one of these. I see that it can move up and down. That leaves us with the 8 mm for the height off of the bottom. So if I come off of one edge for the datum reference, I would go 8 mm, 8 plus 19.5, 8 plus 19.5, and 19.5. So going through those additions, we're going to design for convenience, detail for manufacture. To hold these two positions so that the mating piece will fit or has the best chance of fitting, going between those holes, and then if this grows or shrinks, these don't move in relation to the body. They pretty much in relation to the center line, in relation to the other holes. So it's just kind of thinking through that process as you go. All right, so we have our shapes. If I am in the front plane, then I should be able to hit a Control 2 or just use the mouse button to rotate around. Pre-selecting the face. Well, let's do one without pre-selecting. All right, so preferred is to select the face and go into the whole wizard. If I forget and just go into the whole wizard, all of my geometry, everything that I've set, the M5 by 0.8, the depth, all of those are still good. Oh, well, looks like the 10, I probably could have changed that backdate and left the deeper thread, but we'll go with that. Anyway, the point on the 3D sketch is I do not want to click 3D sketch. I want to come right out here and go into that sketch. And then because I want these lined up with the other hole locations, and there it goes. I mean, if it didn't give me that one, I could always go to wireframe, and I'm looking for those center locations. So if you move close to the center, it will grab, but as you're dragging, if you pause slowly across the perimeter of the circle, it will light up a little bit quicker. All right, so we set those locations. I look at my wireframe and isometric. Okay, we'll go that way. And display style can go back to shaded. And then I'm looking for the fillet, and this is going to be an internal fillet of radius of 5. Oops, that one, okay, there it goes. And a quick tab to update it. That one stayed in 10, so it hasn't updated yet. All right, and then this is where the toolbar, show selection toolbar, comes in handy. And if I lose it, I can always deselect, select again. Connected to the starting loops, we'll find the other two inside edges and give me my my base. All right, and then we're going to, I just hit a Control S on that one since it hasn't been saved previously. It jumps into Save As. Could have just come up to the icon and said Save As. So Vice, Vice Body, Vice Base, one of those, and that will be good.